Dear students of class 8A and 8B, in this lesson number 11, Revolt of 1857, uh, 2 points, Kanpur and Jhansi, these 2 points are very important because some points are there should be discussed thoroughly in detail form. Why? Because Kanpur and Jhansi, both the two states of India. Another state also was there, Ayod, but I thoroughly discussed in my previous class about Ayod. Now today I am going to discuss, I would like to highlight more and more points on it. Kanpur. Who was the ruler of the Kanpur? You know, it was the state under Bajirao I, Bajirao II and his adopted son Nana Sahib. Once upon a time, Bajirao played an important role from there, but later on, Bajirao too adopted one son in order to allow him to be the heir to his throne of Kanpur. But the British introduced one expansionist policy under the Governor Generalship of Lord Dalhousie. What was it? The doctrine of lapse. Under the terms of the doctrine of lapse, the territories of Kanpur was not allowed to be enjoyed by Nana Sahib, but only the personal properties, personal usable items, households, items, buildings, and buildings, ornaments. So these are valuable things which were left by Bajirao too and his wife. Only this much Nana Sahib was allowed to use, but not the territories, not the entire parts of the Kanpur. The territories would come under the hands of the British East India Company under the terms of the doctrine of lapse. That's why Nana Sahib's demand to the throne of Kanpur as a legal heir was not recognized by the British, and hence Nana Sahib challenged the decision of British East India Company, and so the British stopped the pension of Nana Sahib. The pension of Nana Sahib was stopped since the British did not declare him to be the legal heir to the throne of Bajirao in Kanpur. That's why his pension was stopped. And hence Nana Sahib decided to teach the British a good lesson. He discussed some other leaders. He made a group and started plotting against the British. And ultimately, he declared war against the British. And then one of the most eminent soldier helped Nana Sahib a lot. Who was he? He was Tatia Tope. In the battlefield, Tatia Tope also fought bravely. Nana Sahib fought bravely, but during the first battle against the British could not achieve success. So Nana Sahib was determined to end the British rule in India. Meanwhile, so many, armaments reached from England and the British and a number of British soldiers also. With the help of the British soldiers and armaments sent by the headquarters of British East India Company from England, the British got energy, and then they continued fighting. They kept on fighting, and ultimately they defeated the soldiers of Nana Sahib, and Kanpur was recaptured. So, but the reason by which the British recaptured Kanpur, it left a vivid impression among the Indian people because of the bravery of Nana Sahib, because of the bravery of Tatia Tope, The other one was inspired. Who was she? She was Rani Lakshmibai, the widowed queen, the widowed Rani of Jhansi, because her demand for her own adopted son Anand Rao also was not recognized by the British. The British did not approve Anand Rao to be the legal heir to the throne of Jhansi, but the Queen of Jhansi, Lakshmibai, was was not a lady of such a temperament that she would consider her insult, and that's why she decided to fight against the British. She declared war on the British East India Company, and ultimately there was a war between the British East India Company and the soldiers of the Queen of Jhansi. So, the soldiers of Jhansi fought bravely against the British. The British was unable to manage, unable to defeat them during the first half of the battle. But afterwards, the British once again uh, played a vital role, a more and more effective role in defeating the Queen of Jhansi. Ultimately, the Queen of Jhansi was defeated. She was defeated while fighting against the British, and ultimately she was killed in the battlefield. And then Jhansi was captured by the British. Now, why did I discuss these two, the history of the two states of India, Kanpur and Jhansi? Because the contributions of the ruler of these two states, Kanpur and Jhansi, encouraged the people of, encouraged the states of encouraged the other rulers of different states of India. They were encouraged, besides the Sipais who started the mutiny against the British, they also were encouraged by them, by their contributions, by their bravery, by their aspirations. The Indian Sipais were inspired, and they ultimately declared war, but ultimately the British suppressed their rebellion. The British suppressed the revolt of 1857. Now, how was it suppressed? The British suppressed the revolt of 1857 is a fact. But how? How was it suppressed? The British realized that the Indian people, especially the mass, they had no sympathy, they had no active participation in the revolt of 1857, because the British followed a policy of appeasement for the Indian people. During the time when the Sipai Mutiny of 1857 was taken place, the common people, the mass, were provided lots of facilities. There was huge amount of money sanctioned for the development of the country, India, and there was no grievance against the British during the time of Sipai Mutiny, because the British sanctioned huge amount of money for the peasants and farmers. There was a good introduction of harvest. Peasants and farmers were provided with good quality, provided with quality seeds for their agricultural development. A number of canals were made in order to supply waters through the canals to their agricultural lands, and there was no repressive measures adopted against the Indian peasants and farmers. The zamindars also were provided much time to pay the revenues to the treasury of the British. So zamindars, peasants and farmers, common people, They had no grievance against the British. That's why they remained silent. And the sepoys kept on fighting against them with their determination and will. And they realized that nothing could be impossible for them to attain. What was needed most was their strong will and firm determination. So by depending on themselves, by by making their own program, by on being encouraged by the Indian rulers like Nana Sahib, like Jhansi, Queen of Jhansi, Lakshmi Bai, they were encouraged and made Bahadur Shah Zafar too as their leader. And Bahadur Shah Zafar also extended his cooperation towards the Sepoys of India, and ultimately the Sepoy mutiny was suppressed. Although it was not so easy by the British to suppress the Sepoy mutiny, but they took initiative in order to suppress the revolt of 1857. In most important places of India, from where the Sepoys started agitating against against the British East India Company, they barricaded the places, and in a number of British troops also were sent from England, and with the help of these troops, they barricaded the areas, and there was no scope for the Indian sepoys to escape from that areas. So many sepoys were immediately caught, and rest of them they sacrificed their life. So by this way, the process of suppressing the Sepoy mutiny was started by the British. But the thing is that in the year 1858, after a year and a half, the British regained control over its territories after the suppression of the revolt of 1857. But the uprising led to the several changes in British policies. The British realized that due to their some mistakes, technical faults, due to some mistakes in their administration, the sepoys took its advantage. The sepoys were determined to end the British rule in India, but the British East India Company headquarters, England, came to a conclusion that a number of new steps should be taken in order to satisfy the need of the people of India, especially those zamindars, those common people who participated with the British East India Company and their soldiers. They must be rewarded. They must be given their distinctions. That's why the British East India Company headquarters decided to bring certain changes in the structure of administration, and those who betrayed against the British, those who fought against the British decided to teach them a good lesson. For example, Bahadur Shah Zafar too, who took the leadership of the sepoys in the Sepoy mutiny of the revolt of 1857. Bahadur Shah Zafar escaped from there, and he was not there because he was hiding himself inside the Humayun's tomb for several months, and after a few months later, one of the traitors of Bahadur Shah Zafar too, he disclosed it before the British that Bahadur Shah Zafar was hiding himself inside the Humayun's tomb of Delhi, and from there Bahadur Shah Zafar was arrested, and later on Bahadur Shah Zafar was caught, and in front of him his two sons were killed by the British, and Bahadur Shah Zafar was sent to Rangoon, and ultimately while staying there, Bahadur Shah Zafar left his last breath in broken health. So this is the very pathetic history of the revolt of 1857, my dear students. Next day, some points also are there to continue. Thank you.